Hi, Richard. Happy New Year.
Hello, Cam. Happy New Year to you. Did you hear that?
Say that again.
Oh, I said Happy New Year to you. I got to turn my mic up. Sorry.
Oh, okay. You sound far away.
Yeah, I forget that I have to open up my laptop when I'm viewing a Zoom on my larger screen. Can you hear me
Oh,
back?
yeah, I can hear you. Elizabeth, Sarah, hi. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to
Hi.
you too.
Thank you. Irina, Jessica, welcome.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Which Jessica is that?
Black.
Sorry, one more time.
I'm Jessica Black.
Oh, okay. Hi, Jessica. Welcome, welcome. Hilda, hi. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Kim. Nice
Thanks.
seeing you.
It's nice to see you too. So we're a couple of minutes early here. I'm going to go ahead and start bringing up my PowerPoint, and I apologize, you guys. I woke up this morning with a cold, so I'm also going to mute and turn off my camera so I can blow my nose real quick. Let's see if I can do this correctly. There we go. Can everyone see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we're still at least a minute out, and I want to give folks a chance to get logged in, so we'll still pause for just a couple more minutes. Welcome, Laura. Welcome, Chris. Happy New Year, you guys. Daniel, good to see you on Zoom.
Hey Kim,
Good to
Happy New
see
Year.
you. Happy New Year to you all.
Marlene, Sarah, hi.
Hello.
I'm happy to see so many of you here. I always get nervous no one's going to show up.
Well, I almost didn't. My laptop battery died, so I'm phoning in, but I can still see. It's just tiny screen.
Hey, we'll still give you the credit, right? Wow, I'm happy to see we have some faculty joining us from across the curriculum. Gian, I believe is in criminal justice. Is that correct?
And you believe correctly, Kim. Yes, I am.
Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We've been seeing an increase in writing coming from the criminal justice majors, and we enjoy that. Those are always interesting papers to
Yeah,
read.
I keep recommending. Unfortunately, the writing level is not what it should be for a college level, so I keep sending everybody your way when I see there is a need.
Well, hey, thank you so much. We're fully staffed and we're ready to help. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and get started. Um, so I was supposed to have a co-presenter today. Professor Jeff Egan from the English department was going to be co-presenting with me, and unfortunately, he too woke up pretty sick. So hopefully he'll be making it to tomorrow's workshop. So if you had any questions specific to him, feel free to come back to tomorrow's workshop also, which I think starts at like 2:45, and he should be with us then. As we get started also, I'll go ahead and introduce myself just in case we haven't had the pleasure to meet. I'm Kim Arbelante and I'm the program manager of the Writing Center. But we also have some very special guests who have joined in. I would love it if, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. I would love it if our writing specialist twos from the Writing Center could unmute and introduce themselves real quick, because they are the creators of these workshops and I think they deserve to be seen for that. So Eric, Marlene, Neil, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Certainly. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Eric Weiss. I am writing specialist 2, working primarily at the Layton campus.
I am Marlene Morales, and I'm a writing specialist too.
Hey all, also writing specialist too, and I'm focusing going into the prisons. That'll be a new thing for me, but Sarah and Kim and I have all chatted about that.
Yeah, we go to the prison now because it's the place where we don't have to see ChatGPT plagiarism, right, guys? Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. Oh, is this gonna... There we go. Okay. So this is just a preview of what we'll be covering today. I want this to be pretty relaxed and chill. So if there's anything you see on the current slide that you want to comment or ask a question on, please feel free to just unmute and go ahead and spit your comment or your question. So first, I'm going to start by giving you an overview of what our workshop creation process is. Because it's a collaborative effort, as you'll see. I'll give you a menu of available workshops, and I have a PDF menu that I'll drop down in the chat too, so that you'll have that to hold on to. I'll also make that menu available on our website. I have several web changes that I need to get published ASAP. That will be one of them. I'll give you just some examples from some faculty partners across the curriculum and how they're incorporating one or more of our Canvas workshops into their classes. I will assure you that using our Canvas workshops will produce no extra grading on your part, and that's great, right? And then I will let you guys know how to get your students started with the workshops if you so choose. And at the very end, we'll have some time for discussion about how you might incentivize workshops, how you envision using one or more of our workshops in your classes, different ways you can scaffold. Really, we'll just open up the floor and let you guys start chatting. So first off, like I said, our workshop creation is a collaboration, and that collaboration is mainly between Professor Jeff Egan, who is an English professor, but he's also our Writing Center instructional lead. And our Writing Specialist 2s. So we have Writing Specialist 1 and Writing Specialist 2. Both are degreed professional tutors, but our Writing Specialist 2s are our most experienced tutors. I believe all of them have been with our Writing Center for at least 6 years at this point. And they went through many of the same trainings that our faculty did during the pandemic when we were all starting to figure out what it meant to, teach online or engage with students online, because it is so different, as we all now know, right? So they did some of those same educational classes that you all did as well. So that collaboration looks like this. Professor Egan is really there to support and advise the writing specialists on the way that they're thinking about scaffolding these concepts or chunking them throughout their workshop, on how to create effective knowledge tests or practice quizzes. I like to try as much as possible to stay away from that word assessment, but I'll use it here with an asterisk. In the Writing Center, we don't actually grade anything because we're a support course. But as we all know, we have to make sure the students are sort of grasping the concepts. So we have to knowledge test or form other kinds of assessments so that we know if folks are keeping up with us on the same page, et cetera, right? So just know that if you hear me say the word assessment within the context of these workshop discussions, I'm really just talking about that. I'm not talking about actually assigning grades to anyone. And then again, Professor Egan will also help our writing specialist twos with the overall design of their workshops. But really, it starts with the creation of the ideas of our writing specialist twos. They've all done workshops in person, and what we found is that they were not well attended for a whole lot of reasons. Couldn't find the room, time didn't work for them, et cetera, et cetera. But now that we're doing these workshops on Canvas, they have become the most popular form of support that we offer. And I believe we awarded over 500 workshop certificates last semester alone. And that wasn't even our record. I think our record was like almost 750 in a single semester. So what they will do, the writing specialist twos, is they will suggest a topic. Or if I know there's a topic that I've been either talking to some faculty about or something that I see coming up again and again in our writing center, I might suggest a topic that I'd like to see one of the specialists create a new Canvas workshop for. So they go ahead and they design that asynchronous workshop. They think about the tools that they will use along the way, create any kind of PowerPoints, again, any kind of assessments, and indeed the videos that will accompany this workshop along the way. And then they present this sort of packet of information. They're really just designing this on like Word documents, maybe a few other things, as sort of a visual aid of how they imagine seeing this fleshed out on Canvas and how they imagine it sort of flowing from start to finish. And then they present that to Professor Egan. He goes over it with them. Maybe they do that in email format, or maybe they're going to have a meeting to discuss depending on how much they need to get accomplished. And then once all of that content is approved by Professor Egan, he goes ahead and takes all of that content and publishes it in the form of a Canvas module that exists within the Writing Center's Canvas page. And voila, now it's a new workshop. So we have quite a few workshops, I'm very proud to say, that are available to students. So what I thought I'd do to make them like a little less confusing here is I chunked them through the steps of the writing process. So I actually didn't even realize until I did this that the bulk of our workshops are really about pre-writing. And I think a lot of that is because what we see in the Writing Center is that students go, all right, I have a writing assignment. The first thing I'm going to do is open up that Word document and I'm going to stare intensely at it and just hope that words start to form, right? Now, as we know, that's not really what we want to see them do to follow the steps of the writing process. So all of these different workshops that you're seeing on this page are just the ones that have to deal with different parts of pre-writing. Now, avoiding plagiarism is not technically a pre-writing step. However, I think we all know with the amount of plagiarism cases we see on the rise, especially with AI plagiarism, I think it's a great idea to get them thinking about avoiding plagiarism from the start of the assignment. So I went ahead and chunked that there. That specific workshop also, I like to strongly recommend if you are teaching a writing intensive course. I think this is an excellent workshop to assign to your students in the first, 2 or 3 weeks of the semester when the stakes are lower. Maybe we're waiting for everybody to get that textbook because the financial aid hasn't hit yet, et cetera, et cetera. And it just sort of frames the academic expectation that they should really take with them indeed through the rest of your course, right? So think about that one that way. But as you can see, some of these are about reading strategies, some are actually brainstorming and inventing, while some are taking some of those thoughts and organizing them, chunking them, thinking about how you'll argue those thoughts. And then we move on to our drafting workshops. So we have 2 forms of thesis. One is just general, what is a thesis? What are the components? We really chunk it up into 3 things. What are the 3 components that make a thesis sentence? But we've had increasing requests for specifically can you discuss to our students argumentative thesis? So we also now have an argumentative thesis workshop. Writing an introduction paragraph, I believe that's a new workshop that we just published in fall. C method might sound new to you, but if you've been utilizing the Canvas workshops for a while now, you might remember this as ICE method, and then ICE method became EAT method. We decided that ICE was just not a word that we felt comfortable using in the Writing Center anymore. And then we had EAT method for a while. We got pretty good feedback on that, but Marlene, always doing more, said, you know, I think I could even do better. So now she came up with C method for using quotes, which is a great way to help students avoid like dropping their quotes in and using a quote as a complete sentence rather than synthesizing that quote into their own words of that sentence. And then on that note, we have this other workshop, synthesis essays. This is about blending sources with the writer's own position. Synthesis essay, though, this is something that can be done across the curriculum from English to other disciplines. The one below it, though, primary source essays, this is specific for history classes. And because Eric designed this workshop, Eric was a history major. Eric, would you mind unmuting for a moment and just explaining what that specific workshop is? Because I think that one might be the one that feels a little different to our audience.
Certainly, yeah. So the workshop was designed to be both a textual as well as a formal analysis kind of primary source. So the students can look at just not something that's written, but also they can look at an image or an artifact of some sort and be able to analyze it so that they'd be able to draw conclusions and to analyze based on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. And then maybe you can confirm one more thing, because I noticed the next one I was going to discuss is the new paraphrasing workshop. And from my memory, you and Melissa collaborated on the creation of that workshop, and it splits at some point and discusses paraphrasing from the MLA style and from a more Chicago style and how those might look different. Isn't that correct?
Actually, from MLA format to APA format.
Oh, APA, sorry, wrong style.
I covered the APA format side of it. So yeah, so students understand not just how to paraphrase, how to put somebody else's ideas in their own words, but also to know the different styles of writing and how they, have expectations for those.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Okay, and moving along, because I already said CMS, but I said it in the wrong context. We also have workshops that have to do more with revising, editing, publishing. The first one we like to call our Grammar Jam is just a grammar review. How to conjugate verbs, identifying parts of speech so that you can diagramic sentence, etc. I believe the Grammar Jam is the one that actually also goes into I think it blends with some of the punctuation in as much as it goes into diagramming a sentence so that you can identify run-ons and fragments, etc. And then we have the punctuation review. Love that one because it spends a lot of time on commas. And then we have workshops on MLA, APA, and CMS. Those are our main three. I know that there are just a few other styles that are taught across the college. I would say one that we see a little more often, but not often enough that we've created a Canvas workshop would be ASA style. But hey, if anyone ever requests it, we'll create that workshop too. So a new endeavor that we came up with, and I'm kind of excited about, is this new thing we're calling Booster Bites. The way that I envisioned them was that they would be sort of like an asynchronous drop-in when the Writing Center is not available for a drop-in, because I can tell on Canvas these students are logging in and doing these workshops in like the middle of the night when you and I are fast asleep. So the idea is that they can get those quick questions answered in a timely manner when they need it, even when we're closed. So this is a work in progress. Right now we have 3 Booster Bites. So these are like 15 minutes. About 7 minutes or so is the actual front load of content. And then the last 7 minutes or so is practice or some other kind of like ability to try a new skill or a concept. And so that total time that the student spends on that Booster Bite would be about 15 minutes. So right now we have making a writing plan, annotation strategies, and topic sentences. Although I will say that this summer, I'm really hoping that we can get our writing specialist twos to just go beast mode and come up with all kinds of new Booster Bites as they see fit. So feel free to throw suggestions at us, and we'll definitely be talking about that in a later slide. But these are really great too, as we build a library of these booster bites. Not everyone might want to assign a 60 to 90-minute workshop to their students, especially if they're going to do several of them. Maybe you might feel like it's more appropriate to say, like, before you get started on this next assignment, I'd like you to spend 15 minutes on this. Okay, and then our additional workshops, email etiquette. Love this one because I cannot tell you personally how many times I've had to reply to a student's email and say, first of all, my name is not Hey. So if you feel me deeply on that one, or you're sick of seeing what is apparently like a strand of text messages because the student seems not to understand the difference between emailing with a professor versus text messaging them, like, please assign that one. And again, I think that's a great one to do in the first couple of weeks of school before everybody's got their textbooks. And then the one at the bottom, resumes for engineering majors. Obviously, that one is very specific to one discipline. That was a workshop that I personally created during the pandemic. And it's a fun one because my dad happens to be a hiring manager engineer. And I did some bonus content at the end with him where I was asking him some stuff about hiring practices, how he views interviewees, things like that. So if you are not coming from the English department, or I guess indeed even if you are coming from the English department, if resumes are something that interest you, we can definitely create more content with field-specific resumes. We don't want to take the place of our job development team because they are fabulous, but we like to work in partnership with them, and they know this. I think they focus more on general resume creating. We like to take it a little bit further and say, okay, now you've got that general resume. How are you going to revise it for each new job you're going to apply for? Or how are you going to revise that general resume now that you have picked a field, you're about to graduate or transfer, and you need a field-specific resume? So if that's kind of sparking any ideas for you, feel free to talk to me about it at the end of this workshop, or email me later, and we can talk about what kind of resume workshop could work for your majors. Oh, am I frozen? What's going on? There we go. Okay. So the nice thing about the way our Canvas works is because we are a support course and there are no grades, I can insert faculty into our Canvas without violating FERPA because you wouldn't be seeing these students' grades. So what we can grant is TA no grades access, and that will allow you to go in and view all of the workshops available. You can indeed take the workshops if you want, if you really want to see what each page is like, or just see the full list there on our Canvas page. Or some faculty like to be a little more hands-on when they've assigned these workshops to their specific students. In that case, I can grant TA with grades access. And in that way, you can go in and look for your specific students and monitor their progress to see if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. However, you don't have to do that because at the end of each one of our workshops, there's a certificate of completion that gets produced, so you will still know if they did their work or not. And I'll be talking about that more in just a moment. If you request from me that I add you to our Canvas so that you can see all of this, I strongly advise, please turn off all notifications for the ACDVB 86 NC Canvas. We get a lot of folks doing these workshops because each workshop is a module with several pages. It will tell you you have like 1,200 items to grade, and that will give you a nervous breakdown. Tracy Grimes told me one time that I was giving her anxiety with that, and I said, well, you got to turn off the notifications. So just remember, you've been warned. If I put you in, turn off the notifications. And when I confirm for you that I have put you in, I'll remind you again to turn off those notifications. But if you have TA no grades, I don't believe with no grades, it'll tell you that you have assignments pending grading. So, one of the beautiful things that I think we discussed with Professor Egan when we were just conceptualizing what these workshops would be is that we wanted it to be easy for the faculty to incorporate these workshops into their classes without feeling like they were having to do more to do so. I think especially in English, you would agree, you've got enough to grade, right? So what's really cool is that all you need to do is create a new page somewhere in your Canvas shell for that class and make that the place where the students can upload the Writing Center's certificate of completion for each workshop. It's a PDF that's generated. It is the final page of each workshop. So the students must get through the entire workshop in order to get that certificate of completion. So if you just give them a place to upload that, you can just mark it as complete or incomplete, and they're off and running. You know if everybody did it, and you don't have to go in and like actually look at the work that they did. And then one other thing that I recommend putting onto that page is the instructions from the Writing Center on how to get started with those workshops. I'll be talking about that next. And like I mentioned before, that's also going to be an update to our website that should be coming, if not this week, next week for sure, so that you can grab those instructions off of our website. So let me go ahead and get into, actually, I think I'm going to do this backwards. Yeah, I'm going to do this backwards. So we'll get back to the examples of how some folks are incorporating. And instead, I'm going to toggle us over for a moment to the Writing Center's Canvas so that I can actually show you what some of this is going to look like. Bear with me for just a moment because for some reason, this always ends up taking me more time than it should. Y'all still with me? We alive? We good? Yeah.
All good.
Good. Thanks.
Good here.
Thank you. Okay, so hopefully, let me get this toolbar thing out of my way. There we go. Okay, so hopefully right now you are seeing, this is from fall, but this is the Writing Center Canvas page. I mean, it's not all that much different than the way that you are designing yours. But the nice thing is, boom, the workshops are like dead center right in the middle of that page. And we will always announce to the students when the deadline to complete their workshops is coming up. We generally close workshop access about 2 weeks or so before the end of the semester. And that is because, like I said, it's a lot of grading to do. And sometimes if that's the first contact the student made with the Writing Center, we have a lot of enrollment stuff we have to go through when we do that. So it's just really more of like a paperwork thing on our end. So once the student clicks on the workshop area, here is the list of workshops. So it's chunked by different types of content. So as you can see, the booster bites are at the top. Here's the announcement of the new workshops that have just been published. My favorite new one is the rhetorical précis because I am a huge fan of the précis, and I know from talking to our English faculty partners that a lot of folks have said they feel like they don't have time always to teach précis, but they wish they did. So here's the ones, as you can see, with where these little red, I guess, flags are. It's chunking on what these workshops are covering. So we've got grammar, we've got citation, et cetera, et cetera. Email etiquette, primary source, and so on and so forth. Now, this is going to be published on our spring Canvas, but that Canvas is not live yet. But I wanted you to see what the students will now be seeing when they log into our Canvas. So what students will need to do, this is a change from how the Writing Center has worked in past semesters. We're changing our enrollment method. So the Writing Center is a support course. So our support course is ACDV B86 NC. NC meaning non-credit, so no grades, no stakes, no fees to be enrolled, all of that stuff. This is just simply where we're tracking the attendance and participation of our students. But in the past, the student would get a service from the Writing Center, and then we would enroll them based on that. Now for spring, we will be going on sort of enrollment campaigns and trying to strenuously encourage that students enroll for the class. They will be in the class, and then they'll have access to the Canvas. So you will hear a lot from me in the first month of school, in email, out in the quad, at department meetings, talking about these enrollment campaigns. So I would say look out for an email from me next week about scheduling some orientations where your students can come into the Writing Center and get enrolled. But assuming they've done all that enrollment and they are in the Canvas, if they were to go into our Canvas, but they have not actually enrolled in the course yet, because we can actually put the student in the Canvas too. That's the difference between our Canvas and maybe your own Canvas. I don't believe professors can like put their own students into a Canvas. We can. So if a student comes in and says, I want Canvas access, or they email us and say that, we can put them in there. But then when they go to click on those workshops, this is what they will see first, which is the information about how they will need to enroll. And they will need to show proof of that enrollment to access the workshops. And so what we're asking for is submitting proof of the enrollment. So that can be a screenshot, JPEG, PDF, something that shows that they have registered in Banner for ACDV B86NC. Okay. And then once they do that, and it can take, obviously if it's the weekend and they do that, we won't be able to process that until we come back on the weekend. So do make sure that you stress to your students, not to wait till the last minute, as we know, unfortunately, so often they do. But then this is the next page that they would see, is the orientation verification page. And it's just a little quiz thing, basically like, did you do your enrollment, upload your screenshot. Once that's done, they are off and running, and then they can, it will unlock the next page of that workshop for them. They only need to do that once. Once they've done that, they're good to do any of our workshops. So they don't have to repeat this process for every workshop they complete. It's just once a semester. Okay, so with that, I'm going to toggle back to my PowerPoint. Give me one moment. There we go. Okay. Whoops, went the wrong way. There we go. Okay, so just a few examples quickly of how some of our faculty partners are incorporating the workshops into their classes. The first time we tried this was actually with Ronnie Rest, who was formerly in our art department. And he just kind of like was sidebarring with me in the cafeteria one day, complaining about how frustrated he was with the students' essays in his class, because he was at first giving them 2 weeks to work on this essay. And he thought the writing was pretty poor. Unfortunately, there was often plagiarism, accidental or otherwise. They didn't seem to have a grasp on how to incorporate sources or cite them, different things like that. And so he just gave them an extra week and thought, extra time was what they needed. It wasn't producing any different results. So I suggested, well, what if we tried this? So I had him send me the writing assignment instructions. And then I got back to him and said, I think what could be helpful for these students is not just more time, but structuring that time. So we came up with a plan where they had 4 weeks instead of 3 weeks to work on this, but every week something was due towards that writing assignment, and they had homework due to prove that they were doing these steps. So in week 1, I think they did our invention workshop, and then there's a tool that's presented in the invention workshop. He then required that they submit their certificate of completion so that he knew the workshop was taken, and B, that they fill out that invention tool and submit that too, so that he wasn't grading them and saying like, this isn't good enough, or I suggest you say this or whatever. He was really just doing it as an accountability to see them go through these different steps. And I believe they did invention, they did thesis, they did C method, so incorporating quotes into their own writing. And then in the 4th week, where they really should be just working on revising their drafts by then, he required one visit to the writing center to go over that draft with a consultant. And then the student could conference with him after that, depending on what happened in that writing center meeting, and he could assign them extra time if he felt like they were going to utilize it and have it due for them on a different day. So he was, I think, very generous in doing that. Maybe he wasn't overloaded. I don't know. Maybe the art classes are smaller, but what he did say is he looked comparatively at the grades he was assigning for these essays before he incorporated the Writing Center workshops and after, and he did see an increase in grades that he was handing out to students, and he had less students who were just completely not turning anything in at all. That's always nice. I was surprised how much also these workshops have been incorporated into our history classes. Of course, they love to assign the Chicago manual style workshop because the thing about history classes is it's writing and reading intensive, but they aren't teaching the students how to perform writing, but they know what the college level standard is. So I think they're finding that these writing center workshops are a great way to sort of supplement like the things they wish they had time to go over with the writing. And I think that's how we ended up with so many requests for specifically that primary source essay workshop, because they were seeing students really not seeing the difference between how to approach that kind of writing for a history class versus how they had worked with primary sources in their English class. Communication, obviously, that's not a writing class, but some of the process is the same leading up to the delivery. They still need to be able to perform APA citations. They still have to organize their notes in the form of an outline. They still have to essentially write or conceptualize a thesis statement that they will deliver orally. So a lot of our content still applies to them. So we are still seeing an uptake in communication classes that are starting to assign some of those what we call our pre-writing workshops, but it's because that pre-writing complements very well what will end up happening in the Com 1 classes and some of the other Com classes too. Because we are excited to have so many English faculty here in this Zoom with us, I'm not going to go into what English is doing right now. I'm going to hope that one of you will unmute in a little bit and you'll share if you've already been incorporating these workshops, how you're doing so and what maybe effect you feel like that's had. And then the one at the bottom that I'm very proud, and I hope Marlene is too. Marlene Morales and I are part of the academic integrity team here at BC. And so we work one-on-one with students who have plagiarism sanctions. So when you do turn a student in for plagiarism, one of the steps of the sanction process is that they will end up working with Marlene and I. We can assign our academic integrity or avoiding plagiarism workshop to them. Or Dr. Nikki and his team can do the same thing. But, you know, I think prevention is better than detection. So as I said before, and I'll say again, I think it's a great idea to assign that avoiding plagiarism workshop in the first couple of weeks of the semester, just to get students on the right track in terms of how they're framing that idea of plagiarism and understanding where and what role AI should my grammar's getting messed up, how AI might play a role in their writing and what the ethics of that would look like. There's a whole portion of that avoiding plagiarism workshop that addresses AI specifically. Okay, so we've done that. So workshop discussion. So this is where I just really want to open up the floor and I want to hear from the rest of you. So we can really take this in any direction, but I just put a couple of ideas up here just to kind of like stir the pot a little bit. So the questions I have are there any workshops or booster bites you would like to see the WCE team create for your classes if you didn't already see it there? How do you envision incorporating one or more of these workshops into your class, a specific module or a specific assignment? And how will you assign the workshops? Will you have them be required homework? Will it be something that's incentivized with extra credit or something else? Or will you just be suggesting these as a supplement and hoping that some of the students take you up on that? So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for now so that I can see all your beautiful faces as we discuss. And feel free to unmute and just start telling us what you think.
Okay, I'll start. I have in the past, I've just offered them as extra credit, and I don't get a lot of takers that way. So I think I'm actually going to be assigning at least one or two a week. You know, particularly the writing ones. I like some of the new ones that you've added in there. Although I still don't know what C is. I go by ICE. I still use ICE. I apologize if I trigger any of them, and I still use ICE. It just makes sense to me. So, but yeah, I think I'm going to start putting at least one or two a week, and I like that now they can enroll online instead of the email stuff that they had to do. this seems like it's going to be a lot easier. So yeah, I'm just going to make it mandatory, and there'll be points, and they'll be part of their grade.
1 to 2 a week. That's a lot. Thank you, Richard. We appreciate your business.
Well, they're short. They're not. I mean, I don't think they're that demanding of them. So I think especially when you're in 16 weeks, you're teaching rhetorical précis, you're teaching certain things that dovetail nicely with the workshops. So that's sort of the way I plan on using them.
Yeah, and thank you. You brought up a reminder for me, which is that they can be short in as much as they're not timed. So we say that on average, each workshop will take a student between 60 and 90 minutes, depending on how, slowly or quickly they work through the content. But they don't have to set aside 60 to 90 minutes at a time to do it. They can do it for 15 minutes, log out, it'll save their place, and they can come back and work on it a little more later. And so sometimes I also find that students find it less intimidating to be assigned these workshops if they know that they can sort of chunk it up as they find the time.
Perfect. Thanks.
Hi, I have an English B1AL class online, completely online for the spring semester. So I was planning on using the workshops mostly for my lab portion stuff. And I was gonna do, I didn't know how long they would take, but 60 to 90 minutes. So probably 1 or 2 a week for the lab portion. Do you have language already to describe how they get into the lab? Because I didn't know how these workshops worked, so until you told me how it worked, I didn't have a visual of what I was gonna do. So I guess I'll have to create a page with maybe assignment boxes so that they can upload the certificates every week. But on that page, it should probably have directions. So I was wondering if you had directions already or if I should make them up.
Yes. I do have directions. I'm going to distribute those in a few forms. First, it's going to be on our website, because if you go under the Writing Center's website right now, you'll see our old instructions from last semester, which is send this email request and do this and that and the other. You can nix that, because now that we're changing our enrollment method, they won't have to do it in that way anymore. So the new instructions are going to replace that, so you can always direct students right to the website, but you'll also be able to copy and paste those instructions straight from our website into your Canvas, and I don't count that as plagiarism, so you have the green light on that. And then I think what I will also do, just so that I can get to as many faculty as possible, I'll probably also send out a faculty all email with those instructions and probably a Word form, so it's easier for you to paste or something, but I'll put those out to you in some other form so that you can do with those instructions what you will. And then I am planning on attending the English department meeting on Thursday, or I guess it's Dean Jett's area meeting, because it's more than English. I believe Com will be there too. But in any case, I'm going to ask her for 5 minutes just to plug these again. And then if any of this felt confusing, or you feel like, Kim, I just need you to point that out to me, we can go in my office, sit on the Canvas, and I can show you a few things just one-on-one. So I will make sure you have the instructions, no worries. And I will validate you by saying I think the most confusing part of all of this is the logistics, because it involves enrollment in Title V. And so, of course, why would it be easy or make sense, right? So none of us are wrong on that if we were confused.
Hey everyone, I can go next. So I do sorry if my camera off. I'm also chasing a pretty bad cold here. So but I should generally do a mix of extra credit opportunities, and then sometimes I vary. Sometimes I'll just assign a few of the workshops to all of the students. Sometimes I'll say you will be assigned 3 over the course of the semester, and I tailor the ones that I think they most need. Although that tends to be a little bit more work, so I kind of do a mix of both extra credit and kind of assignment. I think the workshops are really comprehensive. I can't think of too many I would add. I mean, the only ones that just might go a little bit out of beyond the ambit of the Writing Center, but maybe ones that are tailored toward critical reading. There's all those kind of alarmist articles, which are kind of true, about students just unable to read, really having trouble just doing basic analysis, knowing just basic reading strategies. Again, that might go beyond the kind of scope of the Writing Center, but that would be the only one that I could think of.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I think fundamentally in the Writing Center, we would say that one does not become a strong writer if one is not first a strong reader, because that's the fundamental reading writing connection. Can I get it? Amen from my English faculty. So we do have a rhetorical reading strategies workshop, and also the Précis workshop, which I think is also a great way to even scaffolding the critical reading exercises. And I believe that came from the rhetorical reading strategies came from like a state thing. It was a 3CSN. What was it called? Do you remember this, Eric? I'm of course blanking right now. Reading apprenticeship, that's what it was. So 3CSN Network did this like reading apprenticeship thing where they were really going hard. This was back in the like basic skills days, but they were doing all of this booster stuff on how to like teach critical reading and things like that. And so we sent one of our consultants to the apprenticeship, and then when he came back, he designed that workshop. So we do have that one available also. Feel free to assign it, and if you feel like it's still like, hey, they need more, give me some more detailed feedback. We can always create more, because I agree, they have to know how to read in order to write. And quite often when I encounter their papers and I see poor writing, especially in B1B, I go back and I'm like, I want to see your annotations, or I want to see your notes about this reading, or how many times did you read this article, or things like that. And quite often it was like, well, I skimmed it, if that, or they did it all. Oh, I got the sources because Mr. Marquez said I had to have 3 sources. Okay, but what did you do with those? Oh, I put them in the works cited, but then you find out they never read them, right? So yeah, definitely let us know if you feel like the existing workshop is helpful, or if you do think that we should develop more content along those lines. But yes, we absolutely will tackle reading.
Great, thanks. I haven't signed that one yet, but I definitely will. Thanks.
Hey, Kim, I just going back to your slide. Do you have a workshop on note taking?
You know what? No, but you know what? I actually just got a request from COM about something similar.
Yeah,
There is,
I went to Helen's workshop this morning on note taking,
that's who it was.
and I'm sure it was Helen. And I thought that's one that we could probably incorporate. I mean, if you have the time and the resources, that could be incorporated as a workshop too. I mean, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one we could work on this summer, because it's actually been on my mind as well. I am a huge fan of Cornell Notes. I incorporate a second page into Cornell Notes as well for reading sources specifically, and I like to call it my word bank for storing main ideas. So they can kind of like critically analyze and grasp the concept through the Cornell notes. And then that second page is really about identifying quotes that they still like are holding on to, find significant, might want to use as they start to draft later. So it just kind of is another way for them to apply some of those pieces of the reading and to think about its usefulness without going through something formal like an annotated bibliography, or maybe this is something that happens before the annotated bib. So I like to add that like second page to it. But absolutely, yeah, I think that's one that actually I think a couple of the writing specialists have talked about that as well.
Good.
So I do have a few questions or ideas. I teach research methods in psychology, and there's a couple issues. First, I didn't notice if you have a one on how to make an annotated bibliography. I'd be interested in that. I teach them how to do it. My annotated bibliographies are specific to science writing though. And that's the other thing. What about something that is specifically science writing? I've had students, because I always refer students to you guys for tutoring, for whatever. And I've had students come back and they come back with what their assignment was rearranged into an essay. And obviously an essay is incorrect. So it will be good to have something specifically on scientific writing and annotating, annotated bibliography, scientific writing, citing, everything that goes into that, which is very, very different from essay writing, as I'm sure you guys know.
Yes, absolutely. One thing we also tell students is how important it is that they bring their assignment instructions with them to the session. I see Neil's head bobbing up and down as I say this,
Yep.
because when they don't, we're relying on their interpretation of what you told them to do, and we're kind of just going on that. So often we'll say, you know what, no, log into the Canvas, let us see. I want to hear from the professor, like what it is they're telling you to do. But I do agree, scientific writing is very different. Because we live in our post AB 1705 society, we really have had to put the labor and the focus into just straight up college level writing. English
Absolutely,
1A.
absolutely.
But
And
yeah,
I mean, they come with so many deficits.
yes.
And
Yeah.
they work, some of my students, they work hard, but obviously it's hard. And I tell them that. I tell them, when you go to the writing center, you must bring your instructions. You must show them what you're supposed to do. But that, of course, does not mean to actually do it.
But
But
you know,
yeah, no,
Jessica,
it's such a struggle.
I would absolutely love to sit down with maybe you and a few of your colleagues from your department, if you're willing to open that door to me to find out specifically what you're looking for. That is content that we could develop. And I think we're looking for that feedback from our psych professors specifically, because it is so different. And I personally know it would make VP Rice very happy, because obviously she came from psychology, but she also loves the Writing Center. So she would love to see us partner in that way. So why don't you drop me an email or pop by my office at the
Sure.
start of the semester, and maybe we can set something up.
That sounds great. I'd be happy to collaborate in figuring out how to do this, because there's certainly a need. So this is great. This is why I attended this. I really wanted to get that out there and talk about that. So thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Who's your dean, by the way?
Christy Howell.
Christy. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I'll mention it to Christy as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you. And because I see at least two of our librarians here, I just got to know what made you guys decide to come by today, Elizabeth and Laura?
I think it's really, really nice to know what you guys offer, because when we work with students, you know, the next step after they have their sources and all that, it may be more natural to work with you guys and your workshop. So I think keeping on top of everything you're offering, and there are a lot of new workshops out there, is really important for us. Whether we have them in person right in front of us, or especially on chat, if we need to refer them on, it's really helpful to know. And I also had a quick question. To get the TA access, do we enroll, or do we send an email to you to?
Yeah,
get
just
that into
email
the
me.
course? Okay.
Yeah, just say, hey, I want that TA access thing, and as soon as our course is published, I'll insert you with the reminder to turn off the notifications.
Yeah, I've had it in the past, and of course I have Eric helping out right there. But especially if we're on chat, it's really nice to just be able to browse the offerings and make a more tailored recommendation, instead of just saying enroll in the Writing Center and take some workshops, you know. So that was my main motivation for coming today, and this has been really helpful.
Well, I'm so glad you did, because, you know, I know you and Laura know this, and it's something definitely that Faith and I talk about quite often, and honestly, Sandra too, the connection between the Writing Center and the library, and how often we are passing students back and forth depending on where they're at in their process. And that really is a partnership that I think is important between our areas, but also should exist for the better support of the students too. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, and it's the same with me, with Elizabeth. I attended for the very same reason, but I just want to say that I'm really excited that you have rhetorical reading strategies, because one of the issues that we have is students aren't reading the sources that we find them. So they're wanting to see their thesis statement in the title of, of the article. And so oftentimes we have to stop and like, okay, we actually have to read through what you're what source you're getting. And so I'm really excited that I can kind of refer them to these kinds of workshops so that they can actually kind of really focus on the sources they're finding, rather than just, endlessly looking for their thesis statement right in the titles.
Yeah, that what you just said reminds me of a student I tutored one time that had written This was back when it was more common to see a 10-page research paper in English 1A, and the student came in and they had their 10-page draft and said, well, you know, I've written this whole paper, Kim, but I was also told I have to get 10 sources. So I've got 10 sources for it now. I have to figure out what to do. And I'm like, I'm terrified of what this essay is. If it's supposed to have these sources and you got those after you wrote the essay.
Oh yeah, we've seen stuff like that. Like, yeah, my professor says I need sources and I wrote this essay. Like, oh no.
Yeah, it's a little scary. I'm always afraid of what kind of nonsense I might see in that essay. But you know, I tell him, I try to celebrate it and tell him at least, you know, I love that you did this free write. I love being able to see where your thoughts are at. Now let's figure out what's going to support those thoughts, and we'll just kind of take it from there, right?
And at least they wrote it. I have students who can't write 5
Yeah.
pages. I mean, that's
Yes. Mhm.
something.
Exactly. And, you know, that's a nice thing about the Writing Center. You know, when you're moving them as a group through your assignment, you kind of have to hit the middle road there. But in the Writing Center, we can hit them exactly where they're at, no matter where that is. So were there any other questions, comments, suggestions about new workshops or booster bites? All right. Well, I don't want to keep anybody longer than they need to be because I'm sure you've got other places to go. So I just want to thank you all so much for being here. This was a great discussion. I appreciate your willingness to come and see what the Writing Center is up to. And just know that my door is always open. I will drop, in case you don't have it, because my name is kind of long and I apologize. I'm going to drop my email in the chat right now. Feel free to hang on to this. And if there's anything you want to ask me about these Canvas workshops later, or any suggestions about new content, you are always welcome to reach out to me. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
Have a great start of your semester.
Thank you, Kim.
Likewise, thank you.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Eric, Marlene, thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you.
Got a couple good ideas for new workshops, so that's, you know,
You?
yeah,
Okay, good.
possible. Yeah.
And Neil, thank you for taking notes. I appreciate that because I can never take notes while I'm delivering. It's like too much for me. So I appreciate you doing that. Maybe we can loop back to that after tomorrow's workshop too.
For some reason, I'm stuck. I can't get out.
Do you want me to boot you out? Maybe I can.
Yeah, why don't you boot me?
Let me see. Remove. All right. I'm removing you now.
Thanks, bye.
Bye. Oh, it asked if I wanted to report him for naughtiness. No, I don't. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. We'll do it again tomorrow. And if you have any suggestions for me about things I should have covered or things you want to say for tomorrow, just email me and we'll make sure that we make room for that tomorrow. Okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Take
Have a good
care.
one. Alrighty.
Bye, Chris.